Hi friends, this is Megan from Forge Soap Co. And today we're chatting all things Renegade. In 2003, two maker friends seeking a local market in which to sell their wares started a little fair known as Renegade Craft. After their inaugural and highly successful event in Chicago, the pair opted to expand their market to other cities across the United States. Renegade was one of the first large markets of its kind and to this day pushes the boundaries of getting creativity to the community. Renegade Craft can now be found in 10 cities across 9 states and the UK. According to the Renegade website, Renegade's vision and approach are still embedded in its origins, to create an inspiring communal platform that's powered by a community of independent artists and design enthusiasts and curated with beautiful goods. Renegade is a juried event that begins with the application process. And if you're not sure what juried means, I have a video for that titled Prepping for Your First Craft Show, Part 1. I'll link it below. Usually they require a brief statement about your business, decent photos that will eventually be added to their website, and a description and price point of what you sell. You are then required to pay a $50 application fee that will be deducted if you're accepted. After several weeks, you will find out if you've been accepted to this 2-day event. Upon acceptance, you'll be required to pay your booth fee. As you can see, these fees range. A half booth or a 5x10 was $365, and a 10x10 full booth was $730. We have always opted for a half booth ourselves. But I almost always regret it when we're setting up with our booth mates because it can get quite crowded. We have a 2-hour drive to San Francisco, so we always get a very early start on the day of setup. They do offer night before setup options if you live locally or staying overnight in SF. We used to spend the night, but it really cuts into your bottom line because SF hotels are so pricey. So now we opt to drive in and out for both days. Renegade San Francisco is held at the historical Fort Mason Center, part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. Its history dates back to the 18th century and was primarily used as an embarkation point for millions of U.S. troops headed for war in the Pacific. In 1962, after 165 years, the U.S. Army left Fort Mason. The fort was left in disrepair for more than a decade until it was taken in as part of the new Golden Gate National Recreation Area. In 1977, Bay Area arts nonprofits began their move to the campus. Fort Mason receives more than 1 million visitors each year and remains a prominent fixture in the San Francisco arts community. They usually stagger groups for load-in, and our window was 8:30 to 9 a.m. this time around. They usually have until about 11 to get everything in place. This year was slightly different than in years past because they required vaccination proof or a negative test for all patrons and business owners, along with masks. We were then given wristbands to wear for the duration of the weekend. This, however, did cause a much slower trickle of people than we've seen previously due to limitations on entries. Eventually it picked up though. One thing to note about Fort Mason specifically is that Wi-Fi is not provided for free, nor is parking. Parking for both days was around $32 and Wi-Fi similar. Our T-Mobile network wasn't nearly strong enough to power our Square reader without issue, so we bit the bullet and just paid for it. Though I wholeheartedly believe this is something Renegade should include with their booth fees or at least offer a discount. Sharing a booth can be excellent or tedious. We've had both amazing booth mates and we've had some that really made me cringe. Make sure to consider this when you apply. If you have another friend who will be vending, you can always request to be paired up with them, otherwise it's a total crapshoot. Your shared booth will be 5 feet by 10 with the 5-foot side facing the aisleway most of the time. There are a few exceptions. Renegade used to have both amazingly free and paid for treats. Free cocktails, kombucha, coffee, pastry trucks, etc. And I understand in the era we're living in that must pose a challenge, but our options for food were very limited this time around. There was one empanada truck and a tamale booth with a line a mile long. So keep this in mind if you have allergies, sensitivities, or restrictions. Your best bet is to bring your own food. The bars were always open for paid booze and canned water though. There are a handful of restrooms at Fort Mason, and the largest one is at the entrance to the building near the plant shop, but it often runs out of toilet paper, always has a line, and generally gets messy very quickly. I always opt to use the smaller restrooms at the back of the building, underneath the second-story stairs. So this can be a little tricky if you're not from the Bay or used to driving there. Allow yourself plenty of time as traffic around Fort Mason can be excruciatingly and painfully slow at times. And if you're lucky like us, not only will the weekly Sunday farmers market be going on in the parking lot, but there will also be a marathon and many police officers directing traffic away from your destination and to Forehead. Would have been great if Renegade had warned us, or if we'd remembered to look it up, so make sure that you're smarter than us. Don't be afraid of change. Even though I spent a great deal of time considering my setup before we went, it felt much too crowded with the number of 4-foot tables we brought, so we eliminated one entirely, thus leaving more space for folks to come in and peruse. You don't have to stick to your first idea if it isn't working. Also remember to go outside and snap a beautiful pic of that beloved bridge we know as the Golden Gate. Premier photo ops are at sundown. Renegade, at least at Fort Mason, allows makers to leave their goods overnight to cut down on setup times for Sunday morning. They obviously are not responsible for your goods, but since it is a locked building, we have always chosen to leave our products and tables set up overnight. We usually put our goods under the tables and cover everything else with a sheet. Some makers don't even do this, just leaving everything as is. The choice is ultimately yours. As soon as the show ends, usually around 5 or 6 p.m. on Sundays, folks begin their breakdown. This is where it is important to make sure you've got your processes down pat. Rolling suitcases, hand trucks, or a wagon of sorts will be invaluable, as some booths require a ton of walking between the parking lot and the back of Fort Mason. Now, would I recommend Renegade to a fellow maker or soaper? 1,000%. If you're able to produce and bring enough product to sell over 2 days, it might be a great fit for you. Folks attending Renegade are usually there to drop some coin back into their community. It's a great way to expand your reach and glean new customers. It's also a fantastic way to find wholesale customers, but more on that in another video. The only caveat I would say is that for us, timing matters. We've done RCF, where we've made a few grand, and one, in the dead middle of summer, that was a bust, and we barely made our booth fees back. Doing a market during the right time of year for your goods will make all the difference. Thanks for hanging out, friends. I hope this helps you if you're a little bit curious about Renegade and whether you might like to pursue it. Feel free to drop any Renegade craft specific questions below, and as always, I'll do my best to get back to you.